In this breakout session, Rebecca Itzkovich and Jill Sapoznik are joining us from Erickson Institute. Their work lies in supporting teachers who work with culturally and linguistically diverse students. During this breakout session, they will explore how to best support young dual language learners in their mathematical journey. Participants will gain practical ideas about how to focus on mathematics concepts while also addressing language that is specific to mathematics. Please welcome Rebecca and Jill.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our session on bringing language and math instruction together, how to best support young dual language learners in their mathematical journey. My name is Jill Sapoznik, and I'd like to present to you my colleague, Rebecca Itzkovich. We are at the Erickson Early Math Collaborative, and Rebecca in Chicago, Illinois, and Rebecca is going to start us on our talk today.
Well, good morning, everyone. So Jill and I were talking, and I know we all want to start hearing directly about how to support English language learners, dual language learners, but we thought it was important that we all agree on who are dual language learners. And we know that in the United States, approximately 23% of children ages 3 to 5 year olds are dual language learners. But that depends of what part of the country you're in, because 23% is a huge percent. So in a place like California, it's much more like 45%. And this is data from 2017, while the state that has the least amount is West Virginia with only 2%. But really, our conversation starts with the idea that there is really nowhere you can go in the United States today and not find children who are being reared in more than one language. And in fact, when you think about it, the definition that Head Start gives us about who dual language learners are, they are children who are learning 2 or more languages at the same time, as well as those who are learning a language while continuing to develop their first. So whether we're talking about simultaneous bilinguals or successive bilinguals, that's the term that dual language learners encompasses. And the presentation that we're going to do with you today is grounded in 3 areas. In the demographics, which we just talked about, and how large and continuing to grow the group of dual language learners who are coming into our schools. In the legal framework that tells us and has been telling us that we need to do something different and unique to be able to support the needs of dual language learners, and on research. And the research seems very clear more and more that dual language programs are the only method of second language acquisition that truly facilitates full closure of the achievement gaps between English language learners and monolingual English speakers. And so the ideas that we're going to present today will work whether you're working in a transitional bilingual program or you are doing it in a dual language program. So with that in mind, we wanted to say that the benefits to promoting bilingualism and multilingualism is not just to the students themselves, even though obviously to the students it's the benefits are to a very healthy identity formation, which impacts their ability to engage in academic endeavors. It enhances their cognitive flexibility. It enhances communication skills, metalinguistic awareness. It expands their thinking divergently. It promotes greater creativity and healthier minds. But beyond the students, the benefits of promoting and supporting bilingualism and multilingualism impacts families, communities, and of course, the world. And so the research is very, very clear. Here, this graph shows us the different types of bilingual programs. Some of them are transitional bilingual programs. Others are full English programs with ESL support. And then the green curve that has the arrow there. That's the one for programs that are teaching students in the 2 languages with clear language allocations for each of the different disciplines. And if you can see that at the beginning, some of the programs look even stronger, the ones that are transitional bilinguals, where the bulk of the instruction is in English. But as the children go up the grades, the curve flattens and it starts even going down for the children who are in programs like transitional bilingual programs or ESL pullout programs, while the children who are being taught in the 2 languages, not only do they keep up with their monolingual counterparts, but really have even greater achievement. So we are just throwing that out there so that you know that the research is very solid in this. And so some of the strategies that we will be talking about work great in both of those, in all types of programs for dual language learners. We would also be remiss if we don't talk about the fact that dual language learners, in terms of their language repertoire, are not all at the same level of language development and language acquisition. And we are using the WIDA consortium material here to help you see that they're looking at 6 levels of English language development, and they also have 6 levels for Spanish language development. And the difference in development is not just at the word or vocabulary level, but at the sentence level and at the discourse level. And this is very important, that as teachers of these students, we are very clear on what each one of them, what level of language in terms of receptive language and in terms of productive language they're in, because our instruction needs to make sure that we are targeting the different levels of language development. And that will become clearer as we continue on the presentation.
So considering the amount of time and exposure it takes for learners, dual language learners, to become competent and confident in using their languages in all manners of communication, whether it's speaking or writing, and also being able to read well in both their languages or more than 2 languages, it's very important to start as early and young as possible, because the longer that children are exposed to languages, the more confident they'll be in those languages. Early exposure also allows them to develop their skills. So younger than 3 years old is even better to start working with dual language learners. And being bilingual or multilingual confers benefits such as improved academic outcomes in all subject areas and enhances some cognitive skills. We know, especially like executive functioning. And
so Jill, I was going to say that I think it's important then to say that as children are coming to us, whether they're coming from homes where a language other than English is spoken in the home, they are already coming with a very strong set of skills, a strong linguistic repertoire. And so then it is our job at school not only to introduce them to more formal and academic English than the one that they've been hearing as they're moving around in their neighborhoods, and listening to the media, but that we figure out ways to make sure that that language repertoire that they came with when they from home continues to be developed. So that's, I think, what you're addressing here, right?
Yes, thank you very much for expanding that thinking. And so as we're thinking about these ideas, we're going to take a look into a classroom here. It's a Chicago public school. It is a pre-K transitional classroom. And here we're going to see the teacher using the book, Rosie's Walk, to present and develop the ideas around spatial relationships in mathematics, which will help the children think mentally about where they are in space in relationship to the world around them, and think about how spatial relationships transition their world around them into two-dimensional experiences. She knows that using prepositions is a very challenging language use, and so she's used this book, Rosie's Walk, where the fox is chasing Rosie, the chicken, all around the farm to highlight this language and these mathematical concepts. Here, we're walking into one of the many times that she's had exposed them to Rosie's Walk and expanding their learning through doing a classroom obstacle course. So as we're looking at the obstacle course video, it would be valuable for you to think about and maybe take notes regarding what the teacher is doing and saying to highlight the language for the children, as well as what you might be seeing and hearing the children do to develop the language for themselves.
Okay, shall we try that? So remember, we're going to go under the table, between the chairs. Can you say it with me? Past the turtle, over the stool, and on the tube.
I felt that it was important for the children to chant the words as each child was doing the obstacle course.
Under the table.
It gave them more familiarity with the word. They were able to see what the child was doing while they were using the word, and also while they were doing the obstacle course, I was hoping they were chanting the words too so they could feel it while they were doing it.
Okay, let's say the words with Eric. Eric's going under the table. Good, Eric. Between the chairs, past the turtle, over the stool, and on the rake.
All right. So now that we've watched this video, we can see that the children are very comfortable and familiar with these words, having had many experiences with the book. And you might also have noticed that the children are asked to say the words with the teacher each time the children go through the obstacle course. When she begins to present the obstacle course to them, she uses gesture to highlight the meaning of each word she's using. And she's only working, you might notice, with just 4 students. And obviously, she does not only have 4 students in her classroom. So this gives the children a chance to engage with the work of going through the obstacle course, but not have to wait too long for their turn to move through this course and enjoy the experience and practice the experience themselves.
So the rest of the children are involved in self-selected activities, and this is a small group, and the children will take turns to participate. So over a couple of days, all the children have had the experience, right, Jill?
Yes, of course. But we're going to focus again when she works with these 4 children. In our next video, she's taken the experience of going through the obstacle course and having the children move from a 3D experience into a 2-dimensional experience to continue to work with both these language goals and also her mathematical goals of developing spatial relationships. And so again, noting on your paper, if you like, what you see this teacher doing and saying to support children's acquisition of these ideas and words.
When we were done with the obstacle course, I had the children focus on making a map of the obstacle course. I wanted them to put the spatial relationships that they saw on the rug onto a map. This is going to be our map of our obstacle course. Now, if you look at the obstacle course, we have some things on it. We have the table. So I drew a circle here for our table. What do you think these are?
Chairs.
The chairs. Sure. Where do we need to put it on our map of the rug?
Near the bookshelf.
Oh, near the book. And what's the bookshelf by?
The window.
Yeah, pretty near the windows. Does anybody have an idea where this would go?
Near the window.
Who can show me?
Near the window.
You want to try? Everybody will get a turn. Okay, where do you think that will go? Near the window, you said. Okay. Why did you put it there, honey?
Because I can see it.
You can see what?
The table next to the window.
Oh, you see the table next to the windows.
Because the name is the window.
Okay. Does everybody agree this should go here?
Yeah?
We have the table way up at the top of the rug, but if you look, here's the top of the rug and the table's kind of far back. Is there a better place we can put this? It should be near the window. You are right. Yihong, do you have an idea? Come on and show us. We're trying to find the spot for the table. Should be by the window, but where do you think it should be? A little where? Okay, put it there and let's see. Oh, you think that's a good spot for it? But is it right touching the other windows? I forgot to write windows here because we have windows on this side.
It's right in the middle.
Oh, can you show me, Jasmine? Come on and show me.
Can you write pink?
Write tank? I think we're not going to write any words just yet, Nathan. No more words. Yeah, we can do, sure. We can do that. Okay, what do you think? Because Jasmine said it's a little in the middle. Yeah, but a little closer down. That's our map, yes, of our obstacle course. Now I want you to watch. I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to show you the path. Okay, we went under the table, between the chairs, past the turtle, over the stool, and on the rake. Who thinks they can do that?
I can. I can.
Okay, Yihang, come on up. Everybody can have a chance, okay? Let's say it with Yihang. Go ahead, Yihang, take your finger. Under
the table.
When I had the children trace the map with their finger, I was really surprised that they remembered a majority of the words. And I think that this was so because they all chanted together, and the repetition of using the words helped them to remember them.
So we probably saw a lot of mathematical ideas and language ideas being developed here in this video. She was very intentional and about choosing to do map making with these students because it's essential for helping them develop their understandings around the big ideas of spatial relationships, that they can visualize and mentally manipulate where those items go on their map. They're using their own physical experience then and translating it into the map from their point of view, and they were able to use that 3D experience that they have with the objects in place to create this two-dimensional picture, but that they could still talk about how they moved through the obstacle course, even though they weren't actually moving through it, by using these spatial relation prepositions. Also, too, when they finished this experience together, and there was one student who was found during her self-selected time in the Writing Center, again, recreating the map that they had worked on together from her thoughts about it and her point of view, and having the time for the teacher to come over and have a conversation with her and have her point and walk through the map once again. And you also might perhaps have noticed that those students in that group had a variety of language development. So this one student was at the word stage, and other students were at more of a sentence stage of expressing your thinking.
And I'm thinking, first of all, when you look at this map, you really see that this little girl didn't just copy it, because this map is being now seen from her vantage point rather than the way that the map was created, which was from 180 degrees from what she was looking at. And even though her language skills are still at the one word stage, even though she feels very comfortable and is trying to speak, her mathematical understanding, because of the kinds of experiences that the teacher is bringing, is really able to go beyond what the teacher. The teacher was very surprised when she saw this little girl come up with this map on her own.
And so, having watched these two videos and walked into this classroom and saw this young lady making her map, we wanted to share our ideas about effective practices for connecting language and mathematics. And so we've seen many of these in this classroom right now. So for example, we saw that this teacher had intentionally planned for both her mathematics goals and linguistic goals by choosing Rosie's walk to build off of for her lessons. We noticed that they started with a shared experience, moving from having read the book to creating the obstacle course to working on maps together. We saw that they used a variety of modes to develop the mathematical and language content. So chanting, gesturing, moving were all ways that they can, and then finally making the maps, different ways to revisit the language and math here. She used the map and the items to create the obstacle course, and how she gestured at the beginning of the obstacle course to make the language comprehensible for the student.
And definitely with prepositions, there's no way to make it comprehensible unless you actually have to go between the two chairs, right? So I think that with some things you can have an item or a picture, but with things in relation to something else, it's very important that you add that piece of the moving through to be able to really understand what does past mean, what does between mean.
So over. Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's really an important thing to think about, how to make that language comprehensible.
Yeah, most definitely very need for good intention there when you're planning for this work. And we already mentioned she used gestures to accompany her lower language. Although we only saw it a bit at the beginning, it probably would have been very impactful had she worked on using the gestures all the time, and even with the children, created the gestures that the students could use themselves each time they were chanting or using those words, and might even rely on those gestures as they start to use those words in other contexts for themselves. And finally, wouldn't it have been lovely to know if this teacher had been using Rosie's walk as part of a bigger thematic teaching unit on animals in the city and animals in the country, knowing that Rosie's on a farm where we see windmills and bees and different things, and using it in comparison to city animals like dogs and cats and squirrels.
Yeah, and then when the children would then bring this to their play in the block area, there would be a lot of opportunity to talk about where things are in relation to something else. So as the kids recreate the farm or recreate the city, what is near what is further away from what is between, so that you're constantly going back to the theme of spatial relationships within the idea of animals in a farm or animals in the city. So that you can come back to the content over and over and over again, which really helps the children hear it and have to produce it.
Yes. Great, thank you. And thinking now about how this work might look in an older classroom, not much older, this is a kindergarten classroom. It's also in a public school. This is a dual language classroom, kindergarten, where the format in this classroom is 80% in Spanish and 20% in English. And what we'll be seeing here in our video is this teacher working with some students during self-selected time. And they're kind of starting to wrap things up here and doing some cleanup. And while they're cleaning up, they start to have a conversation. And we would like you to listen and watch what the teacher is doing and saying so that the students can understand her language. And also what the children are doing and saying to express themselves. And as you're watching this, keep in mind, how does this teacher hold together both the mathematical and the linguistic?
It's tired. Okay guys, we need to find it. They look like pieces of sandwiches. They look like pieces of sandwiches.
Igual que cuando cortas un emparadero. Ajá. ¿Y qué pasa si las separas? ¿Y si las juntas?
They're so tiny. Eat it all. You kill your shoe. You can't look.
Me gusta comérmelos entero. Sí, entero, así. So, Giovanni, ¿ese es igual que el otro?
This is a big. This is a big. You know, in the Amazon, people eat triangle.
Oh. Y entonces, ¿y si los juntamos, son igual? Cuando los juntamos. Los emparaderos que hace cuando están juntos son igual. ¿Cuál emparadero me vas a dar a mí? ¿Me das este o este? ¿Este? ¿Ese? ¿Ese es el que me vas a dar?
I don't know which one to pick. I'm just gonna pick this one.
¿Ese es el que me vas a dar? Ok. Pero ¿me lo voy a comer entero o me lo voy a comer? A mí no me gustan los emparaderos cuando se cortan a la mitad. Yo quiero un emparadero entero. ¿Me puedes traer uno entero? No me gusta cuando están a la mitad. Sí, pero yo quiero uno entero, no quiero uno que está cortado a la mitad. ¿Este es el emparadero entero? Oh, sí, veo que no está cortado a la mitad. Ajá. Entonces, este me lo voy a comer porque este está entero. A mí me gustan enteros, no me gusta cuando están separados. Pero quiero ver que es el mismo. ¿Es el mismo? ¿No es el mismo?
No es el mismo.
Porque yo no quiero un emparadero más pequeño. Yo quiero uno igual. No, ese es más pequeño. No quiero uno más pequeño. Pero quiero estar segura que este es igual a este. ¿Son igual? Porque yo quiero uno que es el mismo tamaño.
Let's see if this one's the same. It's the same size.
Oh, what a wonderful interaction we just watched there. So perhaps you noticed that she's working on the idea of equivalence using the tools of the unit blocks. And she often, multiple times, uses words like whole and separate and equal and same as she's using her gestures to strengthen her meaning while she's speaking to this student in Spanish, even though he's responding to her in English. She doesn't fall into that trap, right, of going and speaking in English, but goes back to her points that she wants the same size sandwich. She wants it in one whole piece. She uses the blocks. And you can also see too in that video, maybe you saw it, that other children were starting to also engage in listening to this conversation around what kind of sandwich the teacher is asking the student to give her, and focusing on also too that she wants the same size sandwich as the one that she's showing. If he's going to cut it into 2 equal parts, she doesn't want the small one. She wants the large sandwich.
So she really is pushing for having the child come up, reason and prove how can he convince her that they're the same size, right? So even though his linguistic repertoire in Spanish doesn't allow him to use the language, he can use other ways to prove that both of them are the same.
So the ideas that we discussed are using the target language to do the interaction even though he spoke in English. She recasts his ideas in full sentences in Spanish with a mathematical focuses. She uses materials effectively to highlight equivalence. And she also insisted on questioning the child, so he's encouraged to explain his thinking using all of his linguistic repertoire. So what we're talking about here with our dual language learners to succeed is that we need to amplify language, not to simplify it. And that's what we've been talking about through exposing it to the effective strategies and looking at these videos.
So one of the things that we want you to remember is that just like you saw in both of the videos that we have seen so far, that the receptive precedes the productive. And that's something that as teachers of these children, we have to remember that they can understand a lot more that they can produce with language, but we need to figure out how to use all their other linguistic repertoires, including gestures and pointing, to get their thinking. We also wanted to talk about the importance of thinking about funds of knowledge as an important component to bring to dual language classrooms. We're going to take a peek into this active pre-K classroom. This is a one-way immersion dual language classroom. The bulk of these children come from homes where Spanish is spoken, and the families work in food service venues, whether they are restaurants or selling food on the street. And so look at what the housekeeping area, the home living area looks like. The teacher has transformed it into a restaurant-like thing where there's a cashier, there's tablecloths, and people are working as cashiers, as cooks, and as waiters and waitresses. And so all of the mathematics related to number sense and to counting and to thinking about what shape does the cloth need to be to cover the round tables that we have is all associated with things that the children recognize as part of their environment. In fact, in this community, there are many Mexican bakery stores, panaderias. And so the children have gone to the bakery on a regular basis. They've gone to it as a field trip. And now they've come back to the classroom on a different time of the year and decided that instead of a restaurant, they want to turn their housekeeping area into a bakery store. And they have created cookies, as you will see, and the cookies have different amounts of like sprinkles or the things that they like. So they've talked about what shapes are cookies, how many sprinkles are going to be, and therefore how much are they going to be. And they've created a menu that they can use for collecting the information as they're trying to serve the clients. So here's the way to think about how to bring the mathematics that the children are experiencing in their day-to-day living into the classroom through mining their funds of knowledge. The idea of that you go to the bakery, you use tongues, you put the cookies on a tray, and then you go to the person who charges you and counts how many you've got. Or another classroom where the children are very used to eating raspados or shaved ice, and they're using that as part of the idea of thinking about volume and also about, how you serve to the clients, how you tell them how much it costs. So in fact, that you can see how literacy and math come together as they create the picture in the next slide that shows the ice cream cone with a price. So they've thought about that. It's a very expensive ice cream cone, but there you go. And so the children are really using what they know. And if you see the next picture, the children love in the summer eating lots of popsicle sticks, and it's not unusual for them to see the ice cream little truck to come by their street, or in fact their relatives may be some of the vendors. So the children wanted to create some paletas, some of these popsicles, and they created a survey to see what was the most popular flavor so that they would know which flavor they needed to make more of the paletas to sell, because they were not just selling them in their classroom, but they were selling them in the classroom next door. So all of this to say that using funds of knowledge is a very, very critical piece to support dual language learners and involve families. These are the families were invited to create with their children the types of stores that were in their neighborhoods. And this created a whole other type of parent engagement that helped the parents understand the kinds of developmentally appropriate experiences that they could do with their children, but also a way to have the families bring their talents and skills of how they create these miniature versions of the stores in their neighborhood. And then the other thing is that we want to make sure that the mathematics is made visible. Like in this example where the teacher is doing a subitizing activity with dot cards and asking the children to do a quick look where they see the card, and then they need to show her on their fingers how many dots they see. This is a wonderful opportunity for the mathematics, but also makes the understanding of cardinality, which is such a difficult concept for the children to get. And for dual language learners, it really helps them see what 3 looks like. And is it 2 and 1 or 3 and 0? So how to make the mathematics visible in lots of different ways through demonstrating. Here, the teacher was telling the story of mouse count and using a sock puppet to tell the story and modeled it for the idea of operations, but then shared the snake puppet and let the children tell their own joining and separating stories as they were sharing the puppet. So here, once again, making the mathematics visible and giving the children the opportunity to use language to explain what kind of story was happening. Sometimes it's the teacher asks a question, and in a classroom where you have multiple languages, like in this classroom, there's 10 different languages represented. And usually in a large group, she would get the same children answering a question related to this pictograph that they had created after reading The Napping House. Well, the teacher created these pairs, these math partners, where she not only placed them with kids who were at the same level in terms of their mathematical understanding, but also thought about the linguistic level and paired the less proficient English speakers with more proficient speakers, but that understood math at the same level so that they could help each other linguistically, but had the same mathematical understanding. So doing these kinds of things is another very important strategy that teachers can use to support dual language in their journey into mathematics. And of course, having more mirrors in the classroom. There are plenty of high quality picture books that are wonderful for supporting the building of mathematical concepts. Why not bring books that are where children can see their culture represented? And here are just a couple of examples of that. Games is another fabulous way to support mathematics development. There's tons of path games, but if you find a path game that families are used to playing, is going to remind them of their own childhood, they'll want to do it with their children, and it's going to bring the kind of joy that you see in the next slide, where a mom and her son are playing a game that she played when she was a little girl, Garritas or Capture, which is a wonderful game for supporting number sense, but using new materials, right? So posing problems in familiar concepts and making the mathematics visible. And of course, they lower the affective filters. So if we want to hook children on the beauty in mathematics, math must be meaningful to them. So that's why all of these things need to be really intentionally brought into the classroom. So you're probably thinking, well, all of these strategies are, right. I forgot that we will be remiss if not talking about the importance of the meta-linguistic awareness that we want to bring. And many languages share cognates, particularly with academic language. So making those very visible, like this teacher did in where she wrote in red the words in Spanish and then in blue in English. This can start to happen in kindergarten, in classrooms, so that the children can begin to say, how are these words similar or the same? Because that's a way to bring that meta-linguistic awareness that helps with the benefit of executive function that we were talking about at the beginning of the presentation. And the other one is the power of using sentence frames to support the children in not just using words, but using complete sentences. And here this teacher is using sentence frames in kindergarten to talk about when the children are playing that capture game, to say that I know that 5 is bigger than 3, so that's why I get to keep it. So thinking once again, like Jill said, of the power of planning both for the mathematics goals, but thinking about the linguistic goals that need to be for the level of language proficiency of the children in our classroom. And you're probably thinking all of these things are really good, solid strategies for all children. And you're right, they're beneficial for all, but they certainly are essential for some. And so if you are going to think about not just equity, but academic justice, then you must think about incorporating these strategies into your classroom so that you can give the children who are dual language learners the opportunity to have a joyous and deep mathematical journey as they start their formal schooling.
And thank you, everybody, for sharing your time with us today. If you have any questions or comments, you can please reach out to us. Here you see our emails, Rebecca Itzkowicz at ritzko@erickson.edu and Jilly Sapoznik at erickson.edu. And please take a look at the earlymath.erickson.edu website, where you can find a lot more resources and information that will help you help your kids on their mathematical and linguistic journey.
Bye. Thank you. Adios.